Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, introduction to deep learning. So, what are neural networks? So, those are class of algorithms which are dependent on, or you can say inspired by the structure of a human brain and how the information is processed. So it uses multiple layers to process the information, same as in our human brain. So we have got various cells that processes the information and pass to the brain. So same thing is been simulated by the neural networks, and we apply the non-linear transformation so that we can capture more complex decision rather than just simple linear separation. So as you can see, this is a sample of neural network. So we have got an input layer where we have got input. This individual orange are known as nodes, and these are the hidden layers that are there. So here we have got three hidden layers, and these are basically the links between the layers. So here the information is passed from the input layer to this hidden layer. Here we add some non-linearity so that we are not just bound to the simple linear problems. And there is one final layer from which we get an output. So this is the basic structure of a neural network. So using this multiple layers helps us to capture various different types of features from the input. So even from small, or you can say a very low level feature to a very high level feature can be extracted using the number of hidden layers there. For example, if you think for this cat, so our human eyes or our brain directly process it and we know that this is cat. But for a machine to learn this, we have to identify various features like it has a nose, two eyes, the ears are of this shape, it has got this whiskers, and such types of features are required. And those are getting developed in the later layers. And first we find out the edges. So those are the low level features that we first identify in the initial layers. And going in the final layers, we then you can say accumulate that features to make sense. Like, yeah, this is nose, this is mouth, these are whiskers, and based on that, the entire thing can be some particular animal. And based on the training that we have provided, data that we have provided, we can identify it as a cat. So this is what is explained here, like lower level layers identify these basic features like edges, points, etc. And these are then used or accumulated to basically get higher level features like nose, mouth, whiskers, and combining those individual features, we can then identify, yes, it's a cat or a dog, or you can say it's a 7 number, it's a 6 number. So if you have the input as numbers. So this is just a brief introduction of neural networks. So now what happens in that individual neuron? So that has been explained very well in this particular GIF. So these are the input signals that we are getting from on this neuron. And these are some values, you can say weights, or you can say the signal value. This signal values are then aggregated, you can say, or you can say summed up. Bias is another value that is being given. So consider it 1 for now. And when we sum the all the inputs from the signals, we then pass it to a non-linear activation function. This is called an activation function, and this is a sigmoid function. So what it does, it provides the output signal a single value, and based on that value, we can know that this neuron is activated or not, or you can say this neuron is switched on or not. So, and this is very helpful in getting a more complex decision boundaries for complex problem. So as you can see, every activated neuron passes on the information to the next layer. So this is just a single neuron that I have explained. So there are multiple neurons, as you can see in the hidden layer, there might be three neurons. So the same process happens in those three neurons, and we get three outputs from that signals. And that signals are again then passed to the next layers. So again, deep neural networks and shallow neural networks. So the neural networks are then in a very high level view classified into these two categories. So one is shallow and one is deep. So the word itself suggests what is shallow and what is deep. So shallow neural network has got only one hidden layer. So that is our multi-layer perceptron layer, or you can say artificial neural network as explained. And deep neural networks has more than one hidden layer. So if you see in this particular image, this is the input signals that we have, and we have only got one hidden layer with multiple neurons, and the third is the output layer. But if you go to neural network, so there are multiple such hidden layers available. So it can be in the number of 50s, hundreds, depending upon the problem. But it is more than one for deep neural network. So as this is having only one hidden layer, it is very easy to train, or it is very lightweight compared to this where there are a lot number of parameters to train, and the training is very time consuming. So as there is only one hidden layer, it is very difficult to generalize the prediction on multiple outputs, but the same is very easy or comparatively easy to generalize deep neural network because they have got number of layers which can extract number of features instead of just one hidden layer. So in general, neural networks are also called as universal approximator functions. So it can fit any function. Yes, it is true that same thing uh, which can be done in multiple layers, it can be done in one layer. But the number of neurons in this particular hidden layer will increase exponentially. And that causes a lot number of more parameters to train compared to this deep neural network. So if we have this two layers, then the number of parameters to train for these two layers for the same problem would be less compared to the shallow neural network. And that is the reason why we use convolution for the image data rather than just MLP for that. So in general, if you have any questions in between, do unmute and ask so that we can see if it can resolve your issue or not. So now, why deep learning? So we have got lots of algorithms, machine learning algorithms. So why do we need to do deep learning? Can you just answer, anyone? What is the need of deep learning? Anyone? Darshil?
So when the amount of data is very high,
Mhm.
it has been observed that the classical machine learning models start to degrade in performance, and that is why we need neural networks to come into the picture so they can learn from the large amount of data and study the complex patterns present in them.
Okay. So why is the classical machine learning have got degraded performance in performance? Do you know that compared to
Uh,
deep
so,
learning?
so they basically start overfitting after a certain limit.
Okay, you are close to the answer, but it's good. So these are the two main advantages of deep learning. So one is the decision boundary and feature engineering. So we'll go a short practical view of both of these things. You can say main decision boundary thing. So deep learning is able to fit very complex decision boundary as well, while comparing to a simple or classical machine learning algorithms. For example, if you compare logistic regression or linear regression, so there the decision boundary is straight enough. So the data can be separated in such a way where the linear decision boundary is satisfiable, it is good for such models. But for complex data or in practical scenarios where I'll just go over to the example. So the decision is such that it cannot be linearly separated. So for that, we require very complex decision boundary. And uh, getting that decision boundary complex, it's very difficult to form it beforehand without seeing the data. So that is why this deep learning comes into picture. Also, feature engineering. With this feature engineering, we don't have to explicitly go ahead and find out features. It it inherently finds out features for us for our particular task. So that is major advantage that is missing in the classical machine learning algorithms. Again, so neural networks require tons of computing power. That is well-known fact, and that is why initially it was discarded in the early 50s and 70s, but now it is coming a lot into practical use. So is it still worth it? So the short answer is yes, it is still worth it. Why it is still worth it? We'll just get all the advantages there. So if you see, this is a type of data where you can say a linear boundary is satisfiable for the data to separate this blue dots from the red dots. But if you consider this type of data, can it be separated with a linear layer, or you can say logistic or linear regression? No, it will be difficult because the the decision boundary is such that it will not satisfy this concentric circular boundaries. So these are non-linear boundaries, but same thing, neural networks can do this very easily. So now I want all of you to go to this TensorFlow playground thing. So go to Google and just search TensorFlow flow playground. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just go to this particular website, playground.tensorflow.org. So I'll just give a brief overview here, and then I will give you some time to experiment with it, right? So in this is a very good example to, you can say, understand how the decision boundary comes into picture and what type of data is suitable, what adding new features will do to the decision, about adding multiple hidden layers, number of neurons. So you can experiment with this so you can just experiment that in less number of epochs, you can get the correct decision boundary or the loss that is there. We can reduce the training loss in such number of iterations. So first we'll go to very simple data, which is linearly separable. So you can select the type of data from this four currently. So just select this Gaussian data. So even visually seeing, you can say that, yes, this can be easily separated by a single decision boundary at this point. And this is the input feature, X1 and X2. So you can consider it as a vertical edge and a horizontal edge. So these are the features that are used here. And so currently I've kept the hidden layers to 0. And this would be a simple classifier. The problem is here. You can select the regularization L1, L2 here. So currently, I will keep it as it is. You can change the activation function to ReLU, sigmoid. I will keep it tanh as it is. And you can experiment with the learning rate as well. So when I do this play, or you can say run, you can see it quickly goes, the training loss quickly goes to 0. So I didn't stop at the right time, but even with 10 to 20 iteration, it is able to classify this decision boundary. And the training loss is 0. and test loss is 0.001. So it is very accurate model, you can say here. So now we'll add some more features like x1 square, x2 square. So these are just squares of this particular features. And now we have got 4 input features, 0 hidden layer. And now we'll try and see. See, within 20, or you can say less than that, we are able to achieve this particular training loss and test loss better compared to the initial thing. So now what we'll do, we'll have this complex layer. So with this, currently as there is no hidden layer, when we just run this, see, it's going to around 200 iteration, but the training and test loss is not getting closer to 0 as well, because it cannot classify, or you cannot determine the decision boundary of such model directly. It will go on and go on. It will not come to 0. So what you can do, try adding new features. So I'll add 2 more features here and then try. See, still it's not able to classify it. And the thickness of this links basically determines the weight. Now we'll add one more feature, x1, x2, and then try. See, adding that feature basically classified it, that you got a circular decision boundary here in less iteration as well. So even without the hidden layer, you are able to get the correct decision boundary for this. But for this, you will have to find this type of particular feature here, right? So now we'll go to this spiral thing, or you can say this XOR type thing, and we'll keep this features as it is. With this feature, this x1, x2 feature, basically you will be able to classify this particular data easily. But if that feature is not available, then just using x1 and x2 feature, it will be difficult to get the correct classification of this model. See, within few iterations only, we got training loss and test loss below 0.005. And you can see this white thing as a decision boundary that is there, that is complex one. So yes, with some features, we will able to get this particular decision boundary. Now the spiral one, it's again difficult, but it is achievable somewhat. See, now you are not able to get the decision boundary even with this x1, x2 feature. The loss, training loss, and the test loss both are high. This is the decision boundary that currently it is there. Right? So now what we'll do, we'll add hidden layers there. Consider we'll add 2 hidden layers or 3 hidden layers, and I will increase the number of neurons. Right? So both the layers have 5 neurons. And now I'll do is I will start. See, it is trying to generate that particular decision boundary. It is getting close. It's taking more time, more iteration, but we can achieve this. If you tweak this regularization parameter, or you can add one more layer, then you will be able to get very low training loss and test loss. So for example, we'll add one more hidden layer here. And now we'll start it. The training loss is reducing iteration by iteration. It will take some time, but we will be able to get a good decision boundary of this. Now it's trying to get stabilized. As you can see, this is correctly been classified, or you can see the decision boundary is correct up till here. There's some more required here. It is incorrect at this position slightly. It is incorrect at this position also slightly. So yes, tweaking these parameters or tweaking these features, you will be able to get a good decision boundary using this neural network, which is very difficult, or impossible in some scenarios for the linear regression or linear classifiers. Right. So I'll just pause it. Now I will give you some 5 minutes if you want to just experiment with it, or else we can go ahead, whatever you say. Do you want to experiment with it? See, we are able to get within few iteration compared to previous one. So I increased, or you can say I added 2 more features and added 2 more neurons to each basically hidden layer. And with this test loss that we were getting around 1,000 or or you can say 1,200 iterations, we are just getting within 300 iterations. So training it more with more number of features and hidden layers will certainly help to get this particular perfect decision boundary. Right? So this is a very good playground provided by TensorFlow to just analyze the decision boundary, to analyze what actually neural network is and how it is. So the thickness of the links provided, those are basically weights. So those basically suggest how important that feature it is for this particular data set. For example, if you just hover over this blue line, it is saying weight 0.84. So the thickness is different compared to this weight that is minus 0.52. So the whichever links are thicker, those particular features are contributing more to that particular neuron, you can say. All right, so I'll just stop this and we'll start with the presentation then.